Dearest reader, it has come to my attention that you found Netflix's adaptation of Persuasion to be a gauche and out-of-touch Walmart creation of 2020's Emma that also attempts to steal the nuance and relatableness of Fleabag. Not to mention those ghastly costumes. And it pains me, dear reader, to say that I must concur. What? Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm Taylor, and today we are going to be talking about Netflix's new Jane Austen adaptation, Persuasion. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and while you're at it, go ahead and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video here on Critical Commentary. I was trying to go for like vintage, and I didn't have anything that resembled Regency era fashion, so I went with cottagecore. I don't know, I kind of feel like I should be on an episode of Southern Charm. This is going to be a really interesting review today for you all. Mostly because I felt like the reason why it's taken me so long to make a video about Persuasion is because there was a lot of things that I wanted to say, and I felt like a lot of the like historical costume section of YouTube had already covered this. Brit YouTube had also already covered this. Any sort of anglophilic YouTuber had covered this already, so I just felt like maybe there wasn't a point in me making a video. But I don't know, I was talking to my friend and I was like, I want to talk about it because it was bad, but I also kind of liked it because I was also, drinking my special juice. I feel like even though it's not my favorite adaptation at all, it's definitely like at the bottom. I felt like it's worth talking about just because I think that there is something to learn about this movie in the sense that Netflix was really trying to capitalize on Bridgerton's success, weren't they? And they did not do their homework, and therefore they did not understand the assignment, did they? Obviously they did not, because this would be a completely different video if they had. So I thought it would be best to kind of dissect this in the most light way I can. So I am going to invite you to obviously grab a snack if you want. We're going to be getting into some spoilers. Honestly, yeah, we're going to be doing all the spoilers. Grab your special drink. I actually decided to put mine in a cute my little critical mug. That's what I've been calling it now. One of my friends, Christina. Thank you, Christina. I love you. She's the one who also gave me my tote, my Lady Whistledown tote. But, yes, so she gave me this cute little, here we go, a critical commentary mug. So my little critical mug, my official mug on the channel. So yes, I invite you to bring your special drink along because this is going to get really messy, and I hope you enjoy. First things first. For those who ask why I use a straw, makeup. Don't ask again. Persuasion centers around the relationship between Jane Elliot and the love of her life, Captain Wentworth.
I have a structured settlement and I need cash now.
Call J.G. Wentworth, 877 cash now.
Captain Wentworth is this dashing yet poor man that Anne is unfortunately persuaded into breaking up with simply because he's unable to provide for her and because he's below her station in regards to status and wealth and, social standing. In the time that he's gone, working on himself and, thriving, Anne is in a depression, and it's not until she goes to visit her youngest sister that she is reunited with him, and drama ensues. I'm not sure how many people are aware of Jane Austen that watch my videos. Probably not that many, because I know I tend to do a lot more nerdy content. But Jane Austen does what I like to call musical chairs of rom-coms. The story always starts off with people that you're automatically going to ship and hope stay together. And the whole point of the story is that she will, for the sake of chaos, jumble up those shippings and give you both better and probably worse ships. And the whole thing is that you just hope that at the end everybody goes back to the place that they're supposed to be in. And most of the time, they do. This formula is similar in a lot of the storylines, Persuasion definitely being one of them. But I also think it's a thing that you notice in Sense and Sensibility. It's something that you notice in Pride and Prejudice. It's something you notice in Emma. There's a lot of this musical chair dancing that happens between characters. You don't want them to be together because you want certain other people to be together because they're more compatible or there's more history there. And so despite Persuasion being, I think, one of the more darker in regards to tone of Jane Austen's books, it still follows a very formulaic model. And I think because of that, maybe the writers in the writing room thought that they could modernize it without any sort of repercussions. Spoiler alert, there were a ton of repercussions. Where the Emma comparison becomes really significant here is because you can tell that the people that wanted to make Persuasion, they wanted to be silly and upbeat like 2020's Emma. But the thing is that book is actually inherently funny like that. And Jane Austen does give her narrator a sense of like facetiousness that just works in a lot of the stories. But again, Persuasion is not an upbeat book. Persuasion is one of her more emo, darker versions of, like I said, the same storyline. But they don't do that. Why? This goes into the costumes as well, and I'll say that I don't even really have to comment too much on the costumes. Yes, the fabrics and the patterns are, I think what allows a lot of the silhouette to fly under the radar, because the problem is not so much the colors and the fabrics, but how the silhouette of the bodices look. This was during the era of the umpire waist, and so they normally have that A-cut skirt, and you're just not seeing that so much. And I'm not a costumer. I'm not going to get into it, but I just found that to be annoying. But again, that was not the biggest problem. The biggest problem for me was the tonal shift. I also felt like some of the characters were just a little bit there and not as well developed as I would have preferred. Richard E. Grant definitely tries to emulate that ridiculous villainism that Bill Nye does as Mr. Woodhouse in Emma, which I did like. I thought that was cute. I think it works for quirky fathers in these kinds of movies. But I did feel like the Musgrove daughters really didn't have a whole lot to do. Louisa was modernized a little bit more than I would have liked, just because, I don't know, I felt like the whole point of the original story was that the longingness and the hidden desire that Wentworth and Anne had, it was something that only they knew about. It was secretive. It kind of reminded me of, and I know I'm bringing up Emma, but it kind of reminded me of Frank Churchill and his relationship with, oh God, what's her name? Jane Fairfax. The relationship between Jane and Frank Churchill in Emma are very much focused on the fact that no one knows that they're secretly engaged. And it's the same thing with Wentworth and Anne. no one else knows that they're together. And so the weird jokes of people shipping them just felt a little bit out of the ordinary. Now, I feel like because I did bring the modernization of certain characters, that I feel like I need to address the modernization of the language, but I actually do not have a problem with that. I think that it's fine that you want to make Jane Austen more accessible to wider audiences. It is hard to get through a Jane Austen book sometimes if you don't understand the vernacular, just because the jargon's different, and I think that the cadences are different. The way that we find humor is different, and so changing language doesn't really bother me. I thought things like the playlist, when it's just like a bunch of sheet music, that was funny. That was cute. I liked that. But then there's like this scene with the octopus, and that was funny, but not for the reasons that I think other people found it funny. The overall chemistry as well between Wentworth and Anne was kind of unbelievable. It felt more like they were exes that were annoyed that they had to be in the same room with each other versus exes that were like, oh my God, it's you, the love of my life, the one who got away. What's going on? What you doing? What are you doing? You look good. Getting any of that. There's no chemistry. And so, I don't know. I just didn't really find that part believable. My definite favorite, and I think this is probably a universal fan favorite, was Mary Elliot's glow up, I guess. She gave me full Karen vibes. She was so hilarious. I will say that's probably the only thing that I was okay with in regards to this change in tone. But overall, I felt like leaning into the humor was a bit of a crutch. I was kind of hoping that they would have given us a little bit more of a dramatic storyline, just because Persuasion is about lost and longing and kind of regretting the decisions of the past, and I felt like we didn't really get to see that. I feel like because they wanted the movie to be digestible, that they almost took out a lot of the stuff that made it significant and provocative. I think where Persuasion failed and Bridgerton prevailed, because they definitely were also drowning in their first season, was that Bridgerton realized after their first season that they needed to lean less into the sex and more into the tropes that made Jane Austen fans Jane Austen fans. You know, if we think about clutching our pearls and gasping, it's not because we're looking at a naked Regé-Jean Page. It's because we're looking at that hand grip. We're looking at that wet chemise. Nah, I mean. And Bridgerton was able to deliver eventually. They gave us a unique story that only really echoes the realism and the pragmaticism of Jane Austen's books. Where Persuasion failed here was that they were so busy trying to lean into those echoes, but in a way that didn't really give us payoff in the narrative. And I think that is what makes both of these things trash, but one is great trash and the other is mediocre. All in all, I could sit here and talk about all the problems I had with this movie, but I feel like it's just not worth the time, and I have been sitting here for far too long with far too much special juice in my system and I need to eat. So I am curious to know what you all thought about this movie. Did you like Persuasion? Were there things that you felt were maybe a problem with casting, or maybe it was, and it wasn't Dakota, because Dakota is not the problem. Dakota is not the problem. But really though, what did you think about this movie? I am curious to know, so please leave me your thoughts in the comments below. Also, make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at CriticalCom with 2M's TV. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Dear reader. Bye guys.